Hello, I'm Ellen Sentier, and this is the Celtic Noir podcast. And it's Imbolc, or it's just been Imbolc, which is the first day of spring. And so I'm going to tell you an old story told me by my uncle years and years ago when I was a little kid, which is about how spring begins. It's called Bridey's Snake. Bridey's Snake. In my end is my beginning, as Mr. Elliot says. I'm old now, but all this happened years ago when I was a little nipper. Curious, nosing everything, never where I was told to be. Right a pain in the ass I was. On an evening I were hiding in the bushes beside the clearing where the old well stands, and I was watching. Fingers blue with cold, teeth chattering, and all the while the snow, all cold and dank, it sent freezing tendrils up through me boots. But I weren't going nowheres, not yet. They would come, all on 'em, along of the dusk. And this year I were going to watch and see it all. The sun slid down the sky. Soon it'd be gone, down into the womb of the darkness, and the cold was bitter. The robin's song altered, paused a moment, and the blackbirds hushed too. And there in the bushes, and we all watched while the light died. Have you come to see the snake then, boy? The voice behind me cackled and croaked like an old crow. I would frozen to the spot, petrified. She came past me now, so I could see her. Dark shape, shrouded in black, with only a beak of a nose, like an old crow, peeking out from under the hood. She cackled again now, and I could see her long yellow teeth clacking between the blue-black lips. Here then. A claw shot out and caught my arm in a freezing grip, and the old crow pulled me out of the bushes and along there into the glade. Old she might be, but she was strong. I couldn't get away, and anyways, it was where I wanted to go, despite my entrails roiling and seething like a whirlpool. Come here, boy. She pulled me to face her. Her black eyes shone full of stars, and they glared down at me. I needs the cup, boy. Her nose was so close I could smell her freezing breath, and she shook me. Are you going getting for me? She cackled again then, and let me go. I was free. I could run, except I couldn't. I tried putting a foot away from the well, but nothing happened. The foot wouldn't move. I tried t'other way, towards the well, and then the foot would go all right. The old crow had spelled me. My dragon feet took me to the well, and its rank, dank breath comed up out of the depths of the dark hole. It choked me with its bitterness and its cold. Unwilling, my hands took hold of the iron winch handle. 'Twere already skimmed with ice, and so it burned, but I gripped hard, hung on, and began winding. The thing creaked and groaned as the bucket went down and down into the dark, and on it went, along with a grating sound like it were in pain. Then all of a sudden there was a great splash, and the bucket was in the water. "Hold 'em still," the old crone yelled at me sharply. "Hold 'em still and wait." I clutched the burning iron handle, pulled it to a halt, hung on with all my might, feeling my hands thrust into the metal, like they were stuck there forever, never come off again. And then I heard it. Soft whooshing noise, followed by a brief whinny. The kelpie had come up out of the depths. Then there was a clunk, like some metal that got dropped in the bucket. Now, quick, she commanded, before he climbs aboard. You didn't want to see him, laddie. You didn't want to see him. I wound the winch the other way fast as I could. 'Twere heavy work now, fighting gravity, and I just knowed it were more than the bucket I were pulling up, and it felt like much more than the cup. And then he comed, up with a roar and a growl he comed, shifting all the while, one minute a pretty black pony, next a huge writhing serpent breathing fire. It was a serpent what leapt out from the bucket straight at me. No, the old crow told him, holding up her hand. Quiet twirling away, but such power. And the twisting black shape stopped, just hanged there in the air between the well and me, and its red eyes glowed like coals, and they were all fenced about with long lashes of black flame. And it watched her. The Kelpie watched her as she come past me, right up close to the thing, and began to stroke its ears and its face. He's mine, she told the beastie. He be doing my work, fetching my cup. He's not for you to eat. You leave him be. Slowly the Kelpie transformed again into a pretty black pony. Except the eyes. They were still glowing red coals. Get my cup, she commanded me, and I could move again. Dipping my hand into the bucket, I touched the cold, hard thing and drew it out. Dark it were, black silver, like it seemed to be. Daylight were all gone now, swapped about for the dimming light of the waning moon as it hung over the tree tops to shine down into the glade. How long have we been here? It seemed just a moment ago, and it were dusk before the old woman come. But now the moon were hanging over t'other side, already on her path down to setting in the west. I shook my head. What did it matter? Time was where it was, and I was where I was, where I'd always wanted to be. And I was holding the cup of winter in my own hands. Now I seed how the moon had lit a trackway through the trees t'other side of the well, and it were like there were a flickering back there from far down the track, and I peered. A sort of chuckle came behind me. Aye, you can see her then, can you, boy? I could, indeed. As like the old one behind me were dark like a crow, so the one coming up the track towards me was bright like a star, and her walked the white moon track. But yet it seemed she made the light herself, like 'twere her own light, and I was afeard. I crept backwards towards the well, still hanging on to the cup. Good even, sister. The bright one entered the glade. Good morning indeed, croaked the old one, the dark one. He stood there, dark one in the east, heading west, the bright one in the west heading east, like the old moon and the young sun. The Kelpie slithered his way around the glade to stand opposite me, and me fuddled brain started to work again. He, the Kelpie, were old in the north, while I was in the south. Step by careful step, the two women come together towards each other, and they smiled. And the old one stood straighter now, and her hood had slipped back to show pale silver hair. Somehow she was beautiful, like an ancient ice maiden. And the young one looked older now, too. A woman now, not a girl, with her thick black hair shining like a crow's wing in the moonlight. Together and together, so they came, till their fingers touched. And somehow I knowed what to do. I turned back to the well. The water smelled sweet there now, like spring flowers. All the rankness was gone. And I dipped the cup in the bucket and I filled it with water. Slowly, me heart hammering in my chest like I'd just run a mile, I went towards them, holding out the cup. They took it, both together, and for a moment all our hands touched. 'Twere like lightning gone through me. They gave each other to drink from it, and then they turned and they held it out to the Kelpie. And snorting softly, oof by careful oof, he came to them. And the women dipped their fingers in the water and stroked his eyes and his ears and down his neck and his shoulders and all down his back to his tail. And then they let him drink. And it were like smoke, white smoke. It began to curl out from his nostrils and then his eyes and then his ears. And it streamed up from his shoulders and his hoofs and all down his back, so his tail were a shimmering fall of white smoke. And he shrank, and he shrank, smaller and smaller, down, down into nothingness. And the women went down on their knees beside where he had been. "The snake is here," said the bright one, "just poking his head out of his hole." I came to watch. There was nothing there. But then, nah, yes, yes, there was. Just the tiniest glimmer of white were pushing its way up out of the black soil. I bent to watch. 'Twere a snowdrop. Its white budding head were just like a snake's head. 'Twere a tiny snakeling birthing itself out of the ground. And its green body followed till it stood up proud and upright. And then the head opened, and it sent out the three white sepals. And they uncovered the three green and white petals underneath, and they opened in their turn to show six golden pollen-drenched stamens. I'd seen it! I'd seen the story come true. The black serpent becomes the white snake, and he puts his head out of his hole as the winter crone gives the cup to the spring maid. I knelt there transfixed beside the tiny serpent flower. And eventually I came to again. And the women looked down at me, kindly like, and smiling. And clumsily I got back to my feet, and they held out the cup to me. "Put it back," they told me. "We won't be needing that again for another year." It was different now. The silver shone and the darkness too. I took the cup back to the well, put it into the bucket, and let the bucket down again into the water. And when I drew the bucket back up again, 'twere light, easy, nothing but water in it. And I was thirsty, so I drank. Turning back, I saw the women kiss, and as they did, the moonlight shifted, and it become like a dazzling whirlwind, and they did seethe within it as it took them from out of my sight. And the moon was gone now, just a glimmering of light as the sun got ready up for rising. I scurried back down the path to the village faster than a rabbit with fox after it. The candle still stood in the window, burned down to a stump now. I slipped in the door and went to sit and curl up in the ashes of the fire. 'Twere done. The end had happened and the beginning. The beginning had come, as ever it do, turn on turn of the wheel. And the crone had passed the cup of winter to the maid of spring. And the dark kelpie had become the white snake, and he put his head up out of his hole to tell us all that spring were here. The Bridey's flower had come again. Like I said, I first heard that story when I was a wee kiddie, about 7 years old, and I've never forgot. And every year, I take the 9 snowdrops into the house on Imbolc Eve. Do you do that too? It's worth it. Celebrate when the black snake puts his white head out of the hole and tells us spring is come.